I have a buddy who's unbelievably productive, and it's amazing how much he can get done and how organized his work is. And um, over the years, he's been kind enough to share with me many of the things that he does, and, how he structures his work. And one thing that came out is that he is really, really good at breaking things down. And he pointed out to me that breaking things down is a skill. It's that over time you get better and better at breaking things down. And I'm remembering this story. I think I've mentioned this before, but years ago I passed this restaurant, and a little teeny hole in the wall diner, was a little triangular space, just had a little counter and a couple tables, and there was a sign on the wall that said seats 150 people, 11 at one time. And I found that sign so funny, because it's impossible, but it made a really good point that if you take things on in small chunks, you can handle just an immense amount of work. Any size project, as long as it's broken down into bite-sized chunks. And I'm sure you've heard, everyone says, how do you eat an elephant? And it's, one bite at a time. That being said, I think the place that a lot of people still get stuck is in not knowing how to break things down. And so what I would recommend is take a couple things that you're working on and break everything down as small as you can. What I like to tell people is, if I pick up a pen, I know that's something that I can do. If that was on my to-do list, pick up a pen, I can pick it up, no problem. So my goal when I break down a project is to have every step broken down to that level of granularity, so that I'm absolutely clear on what I do. Now, granted, there are going to be parts of the project that you may not know what goes into them, so you may not be able to break them down yet. But a next step for something like that might be a research step, learn something online, ask a friend, etc. So what I always do is break everything down as much as I possibly can, and then start executing. And then usually by the time I get to one of those big unknown steps, I've learned enough that I can break it down a little bit further. And then it's a bit of wash, rinse, repeat. I execute on anything I can, then I break it down more, execute, break it down, execute. And I'm really just focused on the next step that I can take now to keep me moving forward. And one thing that I keep in mind is the first step is always breaking things down. That's my first step. You can just jump in, but sometimes then you might hit a wall and you don't know what to do. But you can jump in, and then when you hit a wall, the step to do next is break things down, keep breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces until you can execute on the whole thing. So I would pick 2 or 3 projects and begin developing that skill, that cognitive skill of breaking things down. What can I do first? What can be a lot of small pieces? And I also keep in mind, certain metaphors, like, doing a jigsaw puzzle for me is a really useful metaphor, because I basically start with what I know I can handle. I'll start with the corners, I'll start with the edges. If there is different patches of color, I'll group all the colors together. And all of a sudden it starts to be more manageable. I know I can do the edge, so I'll do that. I know I can group colors, so I'll do that. And little by little, there's no part of the project that's overwhelming. I also use the metaphor of exploring a city. When I go to explore a new city, I'll kind of get my immediate resources that I need. Coffee first and foremost, pharmacy, bank, and hopefully get a map if that's possible. But if a map isn't possible, then I'll try to get my bearings, like where's my hotel? Where is it in relation to transportation, things like that. And little by little, I'm developing an inner map of what are my surroundings and how do I navigate it. And putting together a complex project or you know, a project plan for a goal is very much like that. You know, start by noting the big landmarks, the big sort of checkpoints that you can go with. And then little by little, you'll get a sense of the thing, and it starts to become familiar, and the unknown starts to become manageable and starts to become known. So take a shot at breaking a couple things down, and hope that goes well.